Hello lovely people, Kitten here. This is our first week of working from home. This is our first pattern going out and we are making a seriously cute little teddy. Oh, I've forgotten to put his tail on. I'll add he has got a tail to go on here. I'll add that on the techniques. I'm rushing to get finished because I'm late, because there's been so much going on this month I haven't had to do it. This is rewritten many years ago. I rewrote this from a 1930s vintage knitting pattern of, because in those days everything in the home would have been knitted or sewn, and this was the bookmark. So if you're on the email list, you will have got your knitting pattern. If you're not on the email list, it will be on the website for a little while, just till we get going, till everything catches up. So follow along and let's make a bookmark. I apologise before I even start doing this. The shop is, all the big units are empty. It's so echoey in here. I might have to keep stopping and starting the video because it keeps getting busy. But if I don't make a start on this, and if we don't get going, you're not going to get your pattern. And this is such a cute little thing. You want a doggy colour? Oh, first pause. Colour for a doggy. Colour for a doggy's coat. That's just a scrap. I thought that would be pretty. Bit of sparkle. Right, we start with this little body paws and his dog colour. So, let's do that so we can see. I need to go slowly, never mind you guys, I'm not coping up with anything. Make your loop, and just remember it's the ball end that comes through here to make your first stitch. If you use the other end, it will come out. Right, the needle will give you the size for your stitch. We're going to cast on 2 stitches, knit into the front and the back of both stitches. So, I'm going to cast on 2 stitches, we're going to knit into the front. Remember, come all the way through so you get a bit of space to work. And there, and this one. I'm going to work 2 rows in plain knitting. I'm doing a little bit of a knit along and a natter with this one because it's quite, you know, the short rows. Is this something you would like to see more of? I tend to send you a pattern out every month, so you've got your instructions, but then I think, do you want to see me knitting along to the end of a huge great big row? You decide, you let me know if you'd like to do more knit and natter alongs. Hopefully we'll get a bit more time now that I'm going to be working from home. We'll certainly have better filming conditions. Work 2 rows in plain knitting. Knit into the front and the back of the first stitch. Knit the you see. Now we're starting to shape up. Front and back of the first stitch. I wrote this pattern, I cannot tell you how many years ago, so I'm coming to it cold. So this isn't a fresh one that I've done. Knit 1, knit the 2 stitches together. So it's just as much of a surprise for me as it is for you. I'm going to work 3 rows in plain knitting. Yeah, I can't tell you how many years ago I wrote this pattern. It's just been sitting in the back of my folder thinking, oh, I'll get round to that, I'll do something. I think I made it once. I completed it once and then I thought, can I be bothered to do that again? I don't know. That's the downside of being self-employed doing this kind of thing, is you always get the chance to make and remake just for pleasure. But now we can do that. I've got enough projects to keep me going for ages, I tell you. We'll do some big projects along together. Right, that's that. Repeat the last 4 rows twice more, break the yarn, leave the stitches on the needle. You don't want to see me doing that again. I'm going to do that again. Right, it's a very subtle effect that you've just created, but what you've done is move the work over so you get a slight curve on it. Okay, now this bit threw me for a while. Line them up on the needle so they curve out like they do when they're lying down. Now then, we're going to knit across. Be careful because you've got loose stitches. Just start working. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn this needle round. We're going to cast on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to turn the work back. We're going to knit across those 4. Be careful because that one's loose. Before you go any further, secure in your tails, and we're going to pause there. Right, what we have is a little doggy's legs joined to our body. We have increased a stitch on each end when we put them together, knitted 10 rows, decreased a stitch to give him a bit of a shape, give him a bit of a little fat bottom. What I'm going to do now is put a jumper on him. Needle. Oh. You do not have to put a jumper on him. I'm going to put a jumper on him. I'm actually going to show you the most complicated version of a jumper. You can just knit in one colour, obviously, of course you can. So we've done this, every row's a knit row. That's called stocking stitch. No, it's not, it's called garter stitch. Sorry, I'm still tired from the last week of closing the shop. I'm trying to get this sorted. So, yeah, garter stitch is every row's a knit row. You get the texture for the dog's body. But what we're going to do for the dog's jumper is work it in the stocking stitch, which is a row of knit and a row of purl, so that you get one side very bumpy and one side flat. So we've just started, we've literally cut the yarn for our doggy, we've started in our jumper. Take your 2 tail ends, just tie a simple little knot like that. That'll hold them together, that'll keep them going, and then when you've finished you can sew them in properly. So that was your knit row. Your purl row, we are going to put next, so you get all the bumps along. I'll sit in a bit of an awkward position in this chair. I've got stuff everywhere and I haven't quite got sorted out. I have got a proper filming spot. Oh, it's Eddie making a bed, bless him. Eddie's making his bed. You silly goose, Eddie. You silly goose. You are a silly goose. So that's your row of purl. See how you get a bit of a different texture? You could work plain jumper, you could work in stripes. You could do anything like that. We're going to make a checky one. I'm a bit limited as to my choice of colour, so we're just going to use this yellow that's knocking about. Now, I'm going to knit one of those, put the needle, I've gained a stitch there, look at that, you silly moo. That's how we gain stitches, when we're not paying attention and we're tired. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yes, right. Tuck your needle in there, go and get your other colour yarn and just start. Leave a tail, decent tail to sew in, work a stitch. Tuck your needle, let the stitch hold it, go back to your first yarn, make sure it hasn't lost its tension, work a knit stitch. Put the point of your needle, let that stitch hold it, swap them over, make sure it's reasonably tight and work it. Point in the needle, that one's going that way, this one's coming this way, work a knit stitch. Point of the needle, this one's coming up, that one there, work your stitch. Let that stitch hold it for you while you swap your yarns over. Now you've got a little bit of a rhythm going. You'll find it twists up under here, that's absolutely fine, don't take any notice. Always keep twisting the same way because it makes the back neat. We're going to twist and twist. So you've got a bit of colour going. When we turn round, it's neat. I would suggest when you get to the end of the row, you take your ball of yarn and you untangle your twists, because otherwise it gets in a pickle. Right, so we're going to go back the other way and we're going to put the other colour onto each of the stitches. So this one is going to come round here and we're going to work a purl. Keep them reasonably tight so you don't get gappy drop stitches, and then we're going to tuck that same thing in there, get your yarn, twist it round, and we're going to put a yellow on top of a purple. Tuck that in there, let that hold it, and then we're going to put the different colour on there. Tuck your point in, twist, work your stitch. There is no rush, it doesn't matter, just take your time. Once you've got going a bit, you can see how it twists in the back of your hand, like that. Go, and we twist, and we knit, we twist, oops a daisy, twist, point in, twist, twist. Be very careful when you get to the end because you've got loose thread still hanging at the moment. Giving a little tug. There we go. You can start to see your pattern coming, and you can start to see your back is neat and tidy. I'm going to work some more like that. You can see now that's because we've come in here, we've exaggerated his little fat bottom. I'm going to work his jumper, and then I'm going to come back to you. I've taken a moment to give it a good press so that I can see where I'm going. The choice of the gold that I made for the jumper is not a good choice. It's not a strong enough contrast. But there you go. You can see the shape coming. So we're going to put this little pause in. If I'd known what this month was going to bring me, I wouldn't have chosen such a complicated pattern. But there you go. We don't know these things, do we? We're going to put this pause on now. So we're going to go back to the body colour. Right side facing. And when you start, we're just going to start. We've just left this. I've sewn all the tails in because the tails are driving me scatty. But I haven't sewn that in because I want to secure it. We're going to knit 3. Can we get ourselves 1? Get room for my blooming needle tucked in this corner. I'll have my own little workspace soon. Soon I'll have my little workspace. 1. Right. 2, 3. Now we're just going to work on those 3 stitches. I'm just going to tie a knot to secure it there. Right, we're going to start his paws, and we're going back to the knit because this is the dog's body. Did I drop one? I dropped several. Tired. Shouldn't be doing it when I'm tired, but never mind. 1, 2. That's 1 row. 2. 3. That's 2 rows. Increase. Knit 1. Front, back, knit 1. Front. Just get rid of that little bit of fluff. Back, knit 1. So we've got 4 stitches. Then we're going to knit 7 rows in just knitting. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1. Then we're going to reduce the stitches back down to 3, knit 2 more rows and cast off the stitches. Then we're going to put the centre onto the needle so we can reach these 3 stitches, and we're going to work another paw on that side. Okay, we're going to do that next. Right, so we've taken the sides out to create his paws. We've created a little bit of extra space in there. Now we're going to work on his head. I recreated this pattern many years ago from an old vintage pattern, and they were a lot more detailed in those days. Back of the head with right side of body facing, so we need to turn this around again, don't we? So we got the rights. Yes, they were a lot more, dare I say, skilled in those days, but certainly the patterns need rewriting and reworking a lot of the time. Rejoin yarn, knit 2 rows. So we're going to knit 2 rows. I love working old vintage patterns, but you do have to know what they're on about. They just assume that you're up to speed and you're with it, and they will just say do this technique or do that, and they don't explain it as much as they do in patterns these days. And there's a lot less abbreviations work, a lot less basic knowledge needed. So we've knitted to 2 rows. That's a bit of a faff there. Okay, knit 2 rows. Next row, knit into the front and the back of the first stitch, knit to last, front and back. Then we're going to work some plain knitting, and we're going to keep repeating that until we've shaped up an oval for the back of the dog's head. So I'm going to do that. So we have a back of the head shape, it's quite clear. Then the ears are worked into it, a couple of rows of knitting, bit of decrease, put the stitches onto the other needle, work the other ear the same way, and the head, his face, put the stitches back on here, and we are going to be working around here. We're going to be shaping his little nose in the pattern. We're going to be slipping and turning and slipping and turning to grow his nose in the middle. Now just trust me on this, it does make sense. It's boring to watch and it's a faff for me because I'm trying to do this. But add here, follow the patterns directly, you'll find you're working to here, you're slipping, you're turning around, and you grow the sides to make his little nose and to come back down to here. So I'm going to do that where I don't drop it everywhere. Small tip, if you have wooden needles, bamboo needles, use those instead of the steel, because the wood holds the stitches. When you've got fewer stitches like this, the wood hangs onto them so they don't slip off the needle quite so easily. Mine are buried somewhere, so I'm going to faff about and do this quietly. Here is the end result. This is what it looks like. Don't second guess it. The maths is done, it works. Follow exactly what it says. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense. Just do that and you will get a little doggy shaped nose. All you're doing from here is you're working to here, you're turning, you're coming back here, and you're gradually growing this bump in the middle to make the shape. Then you take your last stitch, you thread the thread through. Don't pull it tight quite yet, because you're going to, you see how you sit the little doggy's face, sits across in front of his ears. Then you want to come down here, put it all in, put a little bit of stuffing in it, then pull it tight and secure it, and that will make you your little dog's head. You will find when you fold the front piece down, it sits neatly across the ears, gathers up under his chin. All you have to do is sew down here. Just put the edges together and sew up and down. Don't try and do any kind of neatening. Nose on the end of the front bump, little face, and there's your little teddy. All sorts of wonderful things you can do with the jumper, make him bigger, smaller, make a front and a back without the second head, stuff him and you've got a little holding teddy. It's a really good practice for you with all the techniques we've been learning lately. And if you're interested in vintage patterns, then have a go. From the 19s, 20s, 30s, they are written very differently. They are much more fussy, much more particular about how they do things than modern patterns, but they are so rewarding, so much fun. We're going to graft on for our puppy dog's tail. Round about wherever you want the tail. We've done this before in other techniques. Yarn through. Just like that, pull it through. The same as picking up stitches really, except you're working through the work instead of on an edge. Yes, you can knit it and sew it on. Yes, you could just crochet a little tail, whatever you fancy. But doing it this way, you can get a nice shape to it. And you don't have to sew it on, which is something I'm all for. Work your tail down however you want, long, short, and that's your puppy dog's tail. And we'll see you next month with next month's pattern.